Counselor, come out wherever you are. Today's review, Cape Fear, probably pegged more as a thriller, but it definitely has horrific elements to it. This is a Martin Scorsese film. It is a remake of a 1964 film, I believe, of the same name, Cape Fear, starring Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck. I would say this definitely deserves mention among best remakes of all time, actually, because it takes a simple kind of pulpy story and makes it all the more complex, which is what I really like about this movie in a true Martin Scorsese kind of fashion. And this is kind of him sort of doing like a like a Hitchcockian type of movie, which is really cool to see. So I really like this movie a lot. And so, like, what you'll see with this movie, I mean, basic plot of the movie is, of course, you have this lawyer and his family, his wife and his daughter, and all of a sudden entering into their lives is this man, this ex-convict who was put away for 14 years, who the lawyer character, Sam Bowden, played by Nick Nolte, had defended all those years ago. And he's starting to get the sense through him popping up everywhere, saying little comments here and there that he's out to get him, out for revenge. But for what? We don't quite know. And we find out as the movie speeds along. It's a very fast-paced and high-energy movie. So there's that. And that's essentially sort of the plot of the original movie, though I don't think the Gregory Peck character was a lawyer. I think he's just like a witness, and basically it's a very simple plot. Like, he was a witness to the Robert Mitchum character's crimes, and because his testimony put him away, that's why he wants to get him. But it's a little bit more complex in this version. And with this version, again, typical Scorsese fashion, there are heavily flawed characters in this movie. Sam Bowden is definitely not a saint. His marriage is on the rocks. His daughter, played by Juliette Lewis, just absolutely almost hates him, really, like, and she resents the dysfunction of the family. So it is a dysfunctional kind of family with deep dark secrets and flaws all over the place. Jessica Lange also really great playing his wife, and I think the family dynamic is really played out well, where they're not a perfect family, they're not innocent victims, not a single one of them. So when this character, this ex-con, Max Cady, played by Robert De Niro, enters their lives, things get pushed to the limit in ways that they, could never have expected and possibly are not strong enough for as the family unit. So it's a very intriguing story. And so what we do kind of find out about this movie is that basically here's what kind of sets Max Cady's path of revenge. What we find out, Sam Bowden being his defense attorney all those years ago, 14 years ago, he was on trial for the battery and rape of a 16-year-old girl. And what the Bowden character did, what the lawyer did, is that he had access to a report of this victim that they were promiscuous and had a many number of different lovers. And so that kind of report, if filed in the defense, could have swayed the jury to towards Max Cady's favor. And whatever your moral stance on that is, I would say, just because there is that type of report, that does not justify this character brutally raping her, obviously. But he's not the girl's lawyer. He's Max Cady's lawyer. That very much would have helped his defense. So that's kind of why Max Cady is after him, and he even says, "Oh, they're just the jury, the judge. They're just doing right by their jobs." And so this whole time, without them ever admitting it, they both know. And so the Bowden character almost acts, a little bit innocent, flabbergasted as to why Max Cady would be after him. Meanwhile, he knows this whole time. So that is kind of like a Scorsese sort of fingerprint, like, where the main character is tortured, and they have sin, and they are more than prepared, no matter how it's provoked, to suffer the punishment and atonement for their sin. Basically, like, you could almost look at the Sam Bowden character almost like the Harvey Keitel character in Mean Streets, almost. But anyway, it all really comes together in a very exciting and thrilling way, as this thriller would, with Max Cady played brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, by Robert De Niro, as if you could expect anything less from this great actor. Just so intensely determined to do whatever he can. He's unstoppable. There's no way he's going to let go and lose sight of his goal, and that's to get revenge on Sam Bowden and make his life a living hell in the process. And he's so clever about doing it too. Like, he doesn't do anything that is specifically a crime, where he's dropping like little hints and things like that. And it reaches a point where, with all the legal ramifications and all the actions that Bowden takes, it's Samuel Bowden who ends up looking like more of a loose cannon than Cady, what he says. So that's just brilliantly, torturous to us, the audience, because we know, of course, the whole time that Max Cady wants to get his revenge on Sam, and that's what it's all about. And there's even all the mind effects, him seducing his daughter Danny, in that very creepy scene in the school, where in the original it was just him chasing her around. So it's a more psychological movie, and I think that improves upon the perfect family being tortured by this determined killer. It shows everybody's flaws, which I really like. So it makes it a lot more complex. So I think it's just great in that respect. And De Niro and Nolte just so perfect in this movie. And it is really about these two characters, coming to their resolution. 14 years between them, just waiting in that prison cell to confront them. And it all leads up to that scene on Cape Fear on the houseboat, where he kind of attacks them, basically, and in a really cool scene where he puts him on trial in his own type of way, and like the camera is angled in such a way, like he has him down and cuffed to like the bar or whatever, and he's looking up directly to the screen, but from his point of view it would be God. So God is the judge of his trial, because he's a religious fundamentalist. So he's just thinks he's like a holy kind of crusader almost, and he even says, "Oh, I'm doing this to save you of your sins," basically. So that's all very interesting too. And he has him on. It's a great scene, putting him on trial. And really, I mean, what it all boils down to is, you were my lawyer. You were my lawyer. That report could have saved me 14 years. And whatever moral stance you may take on Bowden burying that report, that's really what it's all about. He was his lawyer, and makes him cite from the American Bar Association, section blah blah blah, whatever. A lawyer should zealously represent his client to the best extent of the law. And so he made his judgment. He judged him, sold him out, and that's really what it's all about. So I mean, we can almost understand why Max Cady wants his revenge. 14 years. That report could have saved me 14 years, counselor. Bowden's response at that point was, "You're probably right." So I love that. So it is this great clash between these two guys, Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro, just great in their performances. Robert De Niro was nominated for an Academy Award for this performance, so that's how good he was. And up until recently, that was the last time he was nominated. Then, of course, 2 years ago, he was nominated for Silver Linings Playbook. But that just goes to show what a powerful performance that was from him. And it's just really a terrifying performance. It really is. Like, he's creepy with that accent and just that like force of nature type of attitude, where you feel like as if he's not of this world. And I know that was kind of some people complain about this movie, like where it reaches the end, like, oh, he's too much like like a Jason or Freddy character. He keeps on, oh, you think he's dying, then he's coming back. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the point. And then when it does reach where it ultimately goes, which I won't give it away entirely, I think it's just absolutely perfect the the way it does happen, because it's not, the simple good guy defeats the bad guy kind of thing, which I really like. So again, this is all just about moral gray areas. So I think it's just an absolutely masterful movie from Martin Scorsese. Though I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece, but it is masterfully directed, if that makes any sense. So I think it's a great thriller, and while it does have the horrific elements, even like when there's the kind of infiltration of the house scene, there's a little Norman Batesy kind of reference actually, which I thought was pretty cool. Great cast. De Niro, great. Nolte, great. Jessica Lange, great. Juliette Lewis, great. In one of her earlier roles, she was nominated for an Oscar too, actually, Best Supporting Actress. So that's pretty cool. Joe Don Baker as the kind of sort of bumbling private detective. I thought he was great. Before his James Bond days, I thought he was great in his role. Some cameos as well. Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum are also in the movie, as is Martin Balsam. So they all make appearances as well. And Ileana Douglas, who's really great in the movie too. So it's a great cast, great visuals from this movie. Like, again, it's kind of sort of going for a Hitchcockian kind of mood and setting and style. And I think it was noted, like probably like in IMDb trivia or whatever, that this is Scorsese's first film in 2:35:1 aspect ratio. So I think it allows him to get a little bit more out of the setting. So you'll notice him playing around a little bit, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think it's just an excellent film. Also the title cards from Soul Bass, Elaine and Soul Bass, great stuff. Great music, which is just taken from the original, but still it works great in this movie. Dun, 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 dun. I love it. So yeah, I mean it's definitely a great thriller, full of great acting and complex psychology, which I love in horrors and thrillers. So this is just a dream for me, and one of my favorite directors of all time, Martin Scorsese. One of my favorite actors of all time, Robert De Niro. This is just an irresistible movie for me. So I've watched it plenty of times. I continue to watch it either during Halloween or any old time when I feel like it. So if you haven't seen Cape Fear, highly recommend it. It's a great film, full of thrills, full of great acting, and just very well done. So that'll be my review. As always, thanks for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more.